In a vacuum, if you're not aware of the rampant online censorship from governments, activist groups, and payment processors, this seems like good news, seeing the EU wanting to introduce a digital payment infrastructure to combat and replace Visa, Mastercard, Apple, and Google Pay. But in reality, this is a Trojan horse. Within 24 hours of this statement, we had this article come out where Ireland makes a statement saying it wants to push for mandatory ID verification on social media across the EU. And this isn't the only country and government within the EU that has tried to push ID verification. I have talked extensively about this topic a lot for just the last few months alone, and anyone that has been paying attention knows that this is not as innocent as it appears. But once again, in a vacuum, if you have no context of anything else going on in the world and what the EU has been doing or other forms of government around the world, not just an EU problem, this might seem like, yeah, they're going after payment processors, they're going after Visa, they're going after MasterCard, PayPal, after the rampant censorship that they've been doing on Japan, what they've been doing on gaming, and all sorts of other forms of entertainment or companies online. People will look at this and think this is good news. But in reality, people are actually seeing this for what it truly is. This is a Trojan horse for you can give over your information, shift over, and become dependent on the EU government, for you no longer will have access to Visa and MasterCard, and then if you say the wrong thing, they'll just completely shut down your account, which is the same that Visa and MasterCard do, but in this case, it would lead to a lot worse implications, which I'm going to segue into right now. So first off, we need to really talk about how we got here, which I know everybody at this point is already aware of this, but it is very important to give context to why this is bad. The EU has been very hard-pressed, and especially the UK, hard-pressed to introduce digital ID. And to just summarize it very quickly, the reason why they want this is because they don't like opposing opinions. For instance, if you go online and you say something that's against what the government wants you to think, they want to censor you. They want to throw you in jail or fine you for a meme that you post online making fun of maybe a politician that's in the UK or EU government. They want to go after you. They want to know what you're doing. They want your data. They want to know where you go, what you buy, everything. They want to know everything about you before they can censor you, silence you, throw you in jail, whatever they want to do, which is just massive invasion of privacy. And we have already seen many examples that it's not what it appears to be. Like the governments here, like EU and the UK and other forms of government around the world, like for instance Canada, United States, Australia, there's places within the Philippines, all sorts of places around the world are pushing this type of stuff. And the reason, the big narrative they're pushing is think of the children. Protect kids from online. And I've talked about this many times, but it is very important to really blow a hole in this argument that they make. They use children and kids as a barrier to shut down any form of opposition for what they're trying to do. For instance, if you say you don't want ID verification online, you don't want to have to put in your ID to access the internet, they're going to say, okay, so you don't want to protect kids? And it's just such a crazy thing. They are manipulating people emotionally to force them to give over their rights and privacy because they're trying to act like they're the moral high ground, like, oh, you don't want to protect kids. But in reality, they don't really care about that. In reality, what they actually want is to know what you're doing and control you and define you, censor you, whatever. And we've seen already examples of this. There's people that have had the police walk up to their door because they posted a meme on Facebook. There is articles about this. There is video footage of a granny that has cancer with police force in the UK going up to this granny with cancer and trying to basically threaten her with arrest or whatever for posting a post that made people upset online. That's crazy. And so the whole point here with the digital payment infrastructure that EU is trying to do, they're trying to latch on to the obvious anger that people have for payment processors. Like, these governments know. They definitely know what payment processors have been doing. They're probably aware. If they've been getting a lot of crap from everything else in just the last few months, they're definitely aware of what Visa and MasterCard have been doing. And in this case, what they're trying to do here is try to get people that are against payment processors to side with the EU to allow this. And then, basically, once you give over all your information, they're going to force you to give over your ID verification on social media, like to be able to have digital ID, just to be able to use that type of, currency. And I feel like I'm making this complicated. To simplify, they're wanting to get people to switch over, to this new payment infrastructure, and once they get most of the population, or a big chunk of them, attached to this, they're going to pull the rug from underneath you, and they're going to do ID verification. And if you don't, you're going to lose access to all your money, you're not going to be able to access it anymore. You can kind of see what's going to potentially happen. It's not good. It's a very worrisome sign, because what this does is more or less puts your money in the government's hands to where they'll be like, okay, I don't like what you said online. Because of that, we're shutting your account down. And, oh, you're $5,000 in your account, you're $2,000, $10,000, whatever. You no longer have access to that. You can't use that no more. It's too bad. It's because you said the wrong, thing online, or because you're against the political party currently in power. Because of that, you no longer can access your bank account information. That is more or less what will happen. Because it will be that difficult to access this type of stuff. With the push and narrative of wanting to know everything you're doing online and sell your data, that's what will be tied with this new payment infrastructure. In fact, it will be a bigger devil, a demon, than what Visa and Mastercard are, which is crazy. Like, Visa and Mastercard are not good. They are evil companies, straight up, okay? But I'm not gonna lie. Out of both individuals, like, if we're talking about the payment processors that we have and the EU is unfathomably worse. It is so much worse. Like, look at what their government is more focused on right now, what they're doing to their population, and how angry their population is. They're more focused on, having illegal immigrants and everything coming in, and there's people protesting and wanting to silence protest. You have actual kids getting hurt in the UK and EU, and they don't care about it. They don't care at all, because it's not the narrative that they want. They want to push that, oh, you're racist if you don't want illegal immigrants in the country, and all sorts of other different type of stuff. More or less here, I don't really like the situation in the EU and the UK, and I think a lot of people agree with this statement. Normal people agree with that. It's not a good situation right now in a lot of places around the world, actually. And would you be willing to trust a government that is wanting to censor you, fine you for the wrong meme online? Would you be willing to trust all your information with them and your money with them? For they could close it down at a whim if they want. I know I wouldn't. Oh, definitely not. So that is the problem here. Really bad news overall. Do not fall for this. Please, citizens in the EU, in the UK, or whatever, do not fall for this, okay? Do not fall for this type of stuff. This is a Trojan horse trying to weed its way in to make you attach them where they pulled the rug from underneath you. Do not let them. It's bad. I'll leave it at that, though. I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention because it's pretty big. This is a pretty big deal, and I feel like a lot of people need to become aware of this because it might seem like it's a good thing, but it's not. I love you guys. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.